Join Gator great Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning and welcome to a Monday edition of the program. Caught up with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Hope everybody had a great weekend, great Thanksgiving, all that good stuff. Regular football season is over. It's championship week. JC and I will recap it all. We'll also talk with Scott Carter from FloridaGators.com to give his thoughts on the weekend as well. A lot of good football yesterday, over the weekend. Oh, yeah. Let's go to the Titan MR hotline. We're joined by JC. Good morning, JC. How are you?
Good morning. Glad to be back in North Central Florida. I feel like a professional athlete with road trips to Tampa Bay Rays, followed by the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Texas Rangers. And I'm back now and feel good about it. And I tell you, QB, it was a great – you're right. The NFL yesterday was tremendous. And the college rivalry weekend, I think, provided us with some really – interesting games as well. So we've got a clear picture now, I think, on the Final Four in college. And I think the NFL this month is going to determine seeding for the playoffs. I certainly think we could be looking at an NFC South division with a sub-500 winner. So, that's going to be interesting. And that team's going to get a home game against the wild card team with a much better record. But at any rate, December is a big month in the NFL, as we know, and certainly now that we know who the, I guess, 5 contenders are for the Final Four, it's simple. If TCU and Southern Cal win, they're going to – and even if one of them loses, they may be in. So that's what I'm thinking.
Well, I don't think Southern Cal can lose and get in.
I mean TCU, yeah.
Yeah, Georgia's definitely in. Michigan's definitely in, no matter what happens in their – championship games, although they should not have any problem in their championship games.
I wouldn't think.
TCU is the only one. I mean, they continue to play good football, and then Southern California. I told Buddy Barton last week, who's a Heisman voter, he had not watched Caleb Williams play at all. So I hope he watched the other night because he's the best player in football.
Well, he's going to win the trophy. I'm not a voter this time around. He is a voter. He hasn't seen Caleb Williams. Wow. He just doesn't stay up late, QB. Poor buddy. He has to get to bed by an earlier hour. He can't watch those Southern Cal games.
No, he stays up late. I don't know. He hasn't watched it. And so anyway, Caleb Williams will easily win the Heisman Trophy. Yeah. It'll be a landslide. Andy says here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Melton Law. He says, Shane, I have never heard more moaning about the TV commentators than the game than on Saturday, even Buddy. Aren't they turning down the TV and listening to you and Sean? I don't know. Brock Osweiler. Whoever Brock Osweiler and I don't know who the other guy was, who the play-by-play guy was, but I heard a lot of people complaining about it.
Huh.
You got a simple solution. Turn on our broadcast.
There you go. That's simple. Brock Osweiler, I didn't know he was even in the business doing it. I didn't hear anything. Yeah, he was into it. He had energy. He was telling you what he thought, and I don't know what the problem was. I mean, Florida's, they played hard. They played about as good as you can get. But QB, if right now at the end of the season in November, on the 29th of November, if you had to grade the season, A, B, C, D, or F, what would you give them?
They're about what I thought they were going to be. I mean, I don't know. I don't get into grading, but
okay, I'll do it for you. I'd give them an average grade. I'd give them a C. I mean, you're not.
But by saying that, though, what was your prediction in August of what their record would be?
7-5. Yeah.
Okay, so they're just a little bit. So by that, they should be a B, in my opinion.
Well, they fell below 7-5. They were 6-6. Right. But here's the thing that bothered me about this season, and I don't think it's a big deal. It really isn't. I mean, when you're 6-6, you can't really. there's a lot of things you can talk about, but the one thing that I did have an issue with that bothered me is that they lost every one of their rivals and then added Vandy and Kentucky to it. So that's not. I mean, Tennessee, LSU, Georgia, and Florida State all beat them, and they didn't win one of those games. Those are their big rival games, and that's the only thing.
Well, they were exactly who I thought they would be going into the season. I thought they would. I thought they played really hard the other night. Just the problem was Florida State had the best player. Florida State had the best player on the field.
He's
Jordan Travis. So
he's why they've got 9 wins, QB. I mean, and Mike Norvell in his 3rd season, they won't make a big deal about Mike Norvell's 3rd season. Well, okay, fine. That's what he said it would take. But let's face it, without Jordan Travis, they don't win 9 games. So he's done a great job.
I mean, they give them credit. They win 9, but let me tell you, they are what I thought they were. I didn't watch any of their offense. I don't watch a whole lot of tape to get ready for a game. But you know what? We had a lot of downtime, so I watched them and I said, you know what? Their defense is not very good. I said, we will have success against their defense. I didn't watch any of their offense, but the way Jordan Travis played, like I said, he was the best player on the field.
It shocked me that Anthony had 5 completions in the first half. It sure felt like there were more yards through the air, but he only had 5.
Well, three of those 5 were touchdowns. So
that's great. And listen, they had almost 300 yards of total offense. That's also great. But boy, defensively, man, they just couldn't get off the field to stop that team. So
neither could Florida State. That's what I try to tell all Gator fans. They talk about our defense. Well, Florida State couldn't stop us either. So it is what it is. We're going to have to go get a bunch of dudes in the transfer portal and go from there. Got a bunch of texts here on the Titan MR text line.
Okay. Audio.
Came in and the situation that he came in, he handled the situation extremely well. Even though he didn't throw a pass, he made several checks in the line of scrimmage. One was a crucial 4th down. He was very composed. Daryl says, good morning, guys. Shane, I think we played pretty hard Friday night. I just wish we had stuck with the run game. Do you think Dan Mullen would be interviewed for the Cincinnati job? Well, we ran – I mean, I understand where people say that, but then I look at the big picture. Okay. How did we score the first couple of touchdowns of the game? Throwing the football. Right? Yeah. Two deep balls to Ricky Pearsall and then a ball in the flat. So when you get stuffed or something doesn't work, it's easy to second guess. But again, everybody has their own opinions. I've had 0 problems with how we've run the offense because we are so limited in that part of doing things that the reason we lost the game is they had the best player in the game, and he made play after play after play. Yeah. Zach says, "Is the Hartman rumors true? Any other quarterbacks in the portal that we can target?" I haven't looked. I don't know if they're true or not. I don't know what other quarterbacks are in the portal. He's a guy. He and Drake May, I think, are 2 of the best quarterbacks in America. Drake May's not going to go anywhere, but we shall see. One more text here on the Titan MR text line. The problem Saturday was getting in the stadium. Took almost 2 hours in line to get in the game. 8 ticket scans for 70,000 people. Great. Look, I will agree with you. I was on a bus with a police escort, and those morons up there, it was almost like they'd never seen a police escort, and nobody had ever pulled up in a bus with a football team on it. We literally took 30 to 40 minutes, stopped outside the stadium trying to find a parking spot for the buses to get off the bus. It was a cluster. It's been 3-4 years since they've sold that joint out. I mean, they see it doesn't. It has nothing to do with it. It's about your operations.
I know they didn't logistics. So you said we had some logistic issues in Tallahassee.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was terrible. So I heard it was terrible for the fans trying to get in the game as well. But that place up there has got a lot to work with.
A lot of work on too.
Or that's what I meant. That's what I meant. Are you in the
Yeah.
market to buy or sell your home? Darlene Weeby, a realtor, Caldwell Banker, M Paris, will value your fast, friendly, reliable service. Call her today at 352-562-1411. Help your dreams come true. All right, JC, let's talk about we'll talk a lot about the Gators with Scott. Boy, the Wolves of Michigan just put it on Ohio State.
Well, I think you could say they won the day. There's no doubt about it. But the whole day was tremendous. I mean, it was it was somewhat surprising, but really, I did not expect to see. Let me just put it to you this way: Texas A&M, I thought from the very beginning had a chance to win that game at home. They were getting healthier. They had some players ready to play that had not played in the previous week or two, and they were the better team on the field against an LSU team that's going to go to the SEC championship and get embarrassed again next week and end up with 4 losses. Now, look, LSU, they won the West fair and square. That's the way it works. But really, the point of this game is almost as meaningless as some of those old Alabama games against Missouri and Florida and whoever else they played when the outcome was never in doubt. And that's what we're looking at here. And I don't know if the LSU fans are going to enjoy that kind of trip. They usually show up thinking they're going to win games. They're not going to win this game. They're not going to come in within double figures of Georgia. So I don't think the SEC championship, nor do I think the Big Ten championship is much to look forward to. I was impressed with what we saw out west with Washington and Washington State in the Apple Cup. Very entertaining game. And then Oregon State and Oregon was a great game. That opened the door now for Utah to actually play USC again. They are the only team to have beaten USC, so it's a rematch in the Pac-12 championship. USC, I think, has to win that game to get in. TCU, on the other hand, I don't think has to beat Kansas State to get in. I think they're already in.
Yeah, I mean, USC, it's amazing what they've done. But Caleb Williams is he's the reason.
Let me bring some hope to Gator Nation here. 6-6, same record as last year. But here's the reality of things. You can turn this thing around in 1 year, and probably it takes you 2 or 3. But TCU, Tulane, Southern Cal, those are 3 prime examples of teams that literally went from on their back to on their feet in 1 year. And it may have taken one player or one coach to make that happen. And in many cases, maybe 1 or 2 players. But look at Max Duggan and look at Caleb Williams as 2 quarterbacks that basically put their team on their shoulders and won the season for them. And Duggan at TCU was unbelievable. He pulled out some games. And Caleb Williams is going to win the Heisman Trophy. So certainly, those 2 schools, without those 2 players, were nothing. And just like that, boom, they changed their fortunes in 1 year. And then there's Tulane, a team that went 2-10, that now is going to win their conference in all likelihood at home against UCF and go 10-2, 11-2 this year, and play in the Cotton Bowl. Think about that.
And they're losing their coach to Georgia Tech.
Well, that's possible. But think about the fact that they're going to end up in the freaking Cotton Bowl. Tulane. So things can change. I mean, Florida can be completely different next year. This whole roster and everybody on it can change. It doesn't have to take 4 years, 3 even. It likely could or would, but it doesn't have to anymore.
But as you stated, it all revolves around, and this is not picking on our.
No, it does. What happened to the internet? It changed the internet. Damn it.
JC, are you there?
Okay, you said you cut out when you said it all revolves around, and then I lost you. We lost you.
The quarterback. I mean, the reason the Gators lost the other night is because they had the better player on the field who made it play. JC, are you there?
Your beach signal is killing me.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. Deal with it.
I just can't. Okay, that's fine. I'll deal with it. But I just
I'm going back to the point of to win in college football,
yes,
or even pro football. Your damn quarterback better play at an extremely high level.
Yeah. 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 Gosh.
Don't know. So we'll let me get to some text here.
There you are. Okay, you came back. You came back. You're in and out, dude.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm just saying I got a million people asking here about what's going to happen in the portal. I will tell you, I don't know, but if I'm the head coach, I am going in the portal and I am getting every possible player that can help my football team immediately. Now,
yeah,
every other team's going to be doing the same thing.
Sure.
We're not going to be the only people going in there.
No.
So there's going to be player X, Y, and Z that the Gator fans have heard of and know about.
Yeah.
And he could not come to Florida, and they're going to get upset at our coaches for not getting him.
You can't get them all. You can't get them all. You only got 85 spots. I'll tell you, QB, the quarterback example that you're making was really evident yesterday in New York with what we saw Mike White do for the Jets, and how not turning the ball over and getting the team in the end zone. Again, remember, my definition of a good quarterback is just two things. A guy that can get you in the end zone and a guy that can win you football games. And it's very simple. To me, it's very simple. And listen, the Jets had a guy that didn't turn the ball over yesterday, and they looked like a team that could win the division as compared to the guy they had before, who all he did was turn it over. Look at Trevor Lawrence yesterday, QB. Look at Trevor Lawrence. He had his best game as a professional yesterday, over 300 yards catching. Zay Jones had 100 and some odd yards receiving. And it was amazing what you can do with a guy that doesn't turn the ball over. So that, to me, and that's why I love Bryce Young so much with Alabama. You know, Bryce Young, we won't see him play for Alabama anymore, but he was the best quarterback I think that school may have ever had, ever.
And not even close.
Yeah, and that's saying quite a lot when you consider there are two NFL quarterbacks right now that came from Alabama that are on fire. One of them's got one of the best offenses working for him right now, and I know that Mike McDaniel is going to do that at Miami because he's an offensive guy. And then the other one could win the NFL's MVP award in Philadelphia, and he was a guy that couldn't throw a pass for much of his career until he went to Oklahoma. But the point is that quarterbacks change everything about your team. Everything about your team can change with a guy that doesn't toss the ball over to the other team, and he can get you in the end zone. Jacksonville got that done yesterday, and they won a football game. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, the Jags, that was a great win for them. Michael says, good morning, Shane and JC. Is it possible running an offense without using RPO system and go back to an offense like Spurrier? We don't do a whole lot of RPOs here. We may throw one in every game, but we don't run a lot of RPO.
I just think he may have just been talking about the way the offense is run with Anthony compared to the way the offense could be run with a guy like Hendon Hooker. Something like that.
Well, it's you can. Well, it doesn't matter if you have a picture in the dictionary of the perfect quarterback. If that perfect quarterback, talent-wise or skill-wise or whatever you want to call it, cannot do certain things, you can't call the play. That's what.
That's true. Yeah. Right. So. Right.
This text here says, "Tell JC that his team still gets in if USC loses to Utah. The committee loves Bama." And I think if you see Michigan ranked number 1 in this week's rankings, it's because the committee doesn't want Georgia, Bama in the first round. Bama will, if USC or TCU loses, Alabama's getting in because Alabama, their 2 losses are by a combined 4 points in the last play of the game.
4 points on the last. So, on the road. And let's face it, when was the last time they lost by 22 points at home to anybody? You know, and here's Ohio State. Listen, Ohio State's got a big problem on stopping people. They've had that problem now for the last 5 years. That's the thing Ryan Day has to figure out. They can score, but dude, they do not. Their linebackers are bad. They're bad defensively. Michigan exposed them. I was shocked, really. Without Blake Corum, Michigan really showed me a lot. And maybe they should be number 1 QB. You know why? Because then well, no, they shouldn't be. Why should Georgia not be number 1? Somebody give me a reason why they shouldn't be number 1, and I can't find it. So.
Yeah, they'll be number 1.
And that matters. That does matter. It matters a lot because that allows Georgia to play in Atlanta and not have to go to Phoenix and play USC in Phoenix, and that would not be easy for them. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's amazing what USC has done because their defense is so bad. So
But
bad. They're very
scored.
similar. They're very similar to when LSU won it all. I'm not saying they're going to win it all.
Yeah.
But
I see that.
They're so good on offense, but they're so bad on defense. So we'll see what happens there. We had another text, and I can't find it. I accidentally deleted it. JC, on our Peachland Dental picks, you went 8-5. I went 7-6.
So, yeah, 80 and 70. I'll take that.
Yeah, so I am so glad that because I've been saying for the last couple of weeks I did not think LSU was a very good football. I mean, they're a good team, but don't take me the wrong way. But they're not playoff caliber. And I mean, A&M dominated them in every phase the other night.
Yeah, and now it's pretty obvious to me. See, the only thing I would say is Alabama's problem is the 2 losses, and you said by 4 losses, 4 points total. But Ohio State's got to win over Notre Dame, and they've got to win over Penn State, and those are 2 pretty good wins for them. I don't know if they would get in necessarily, but I don't think the committee would feel bad about sticking them in Atlanta against Georgia should USC lose that game to Utah. So I know the committee's rooting like hell for USC to win. They want that potential game, and I think they would put USC in Glendale, which means I think they would end up playing Michigan, and they put TCU in Atlanta. But I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, Jerry says Georgia doesn't look unbeatable. I mean, I feel like Georgia just kind of goes through the motions. I really do.
Well, until it's time to watch the intensity this weekend compared to the Georgia Tech game. You'll see 2 different types of intensity.
Yeah, it'd be totally night and day. God, I just lost my train of thought, but I wanted to ask you about. God, what was it?
Are you talking about the NFL?
No. It was college football. But it was wouldn't this year would be the perfect year for the 12-team playoff?
I think you could make a case for that. Absolutely. There's 6 games, 6 teams right now that could all play with the potential chance of winning it. I think there's 6. I know we want to overweight Georgia, and I totally get it. But on any given day, with these offenses they have at TCU and the offenses they have at Southern Cal and Alabama, you're always going to be in a game with those kinds of teams, QB. Even though Alabama's defense has been really soft, comparatively speaking, to prior years, they are always in the game. It's in spite of how bad their defense can look, they are always in the game. And the same thing.
Why?
It's because of quarterback. And the same thing with Southern Cal, the same thing with TCU. They're always going to be in that game. So, you could have 6 really good teams and probably 6 that probably would be beaten, but that's fine. That's what lower seed teams are supposed to do, is lose. So that's the way it works most of the time, except in the NFL. Anybody can win that, but of the 6. But certainly I think this would be, and again, I just hope, and I heard what Mike Morgan said, I agree with him, because that's what I would believe, is that the home or the teams that get the byes need a home on-campus game. I hope the committees figure that out when it's time to institute this 12-game playoff, 12-team playoff, which they will have. They will have.
What do you think about Wisconsin hiring Luke Fickell?
I like that hire, because now Wisconsin's going to discover the joy of scoring points. They're going to figure out a way, even though he's a defensive guy, QB. I get it. But Cincinnati, they had a quarterback last year, good enough to get him to the Final Four. And I think Luke Fickell understands the concept of scoring points a little bit better than some of these guys they've had.
The good thing about it is they hired outside of the Wisconsin family, because everybody since Barry Alvarez has been a part of the Wisconsin boring ass, run the football every down. I agree. I think it's a great hire for Wisconsin.
Yeah, I do.
And it'll be interesting to see. A game that was very interesting was the war on I-4.
Yeah.
South Florida came from way behind, like 28 down, to make that close. I'm anxious to see who they hire there. If I'm them, you hire Dion.
Yeah. In Tampa, oh my gosh, what a splash that would be for South Florida. It's a big school. They could support a team. They need some better facilities for sure. As does Miami, but I think Miami's got the money to put into it. I don't know what South Florida's situation is, but once they can get an on-campus facility, if that's even possible down there in Hillsborough County, I don't know if it is, that would help them tremendously, because I think that's a big enough school to get players to say, yeah, sure, I'd like to come play in Tampa. Who the hell wouldn't? Maybe. So anyway, I look, and here's the thing with Auburn, by the way. Auburn, give Cadillac all the credit you want. They played hard for him, but Auburn has to get it right this time, man. Their turnover ratio with coaches at Auburn is so dysfunctional, and it is hard to and Hugh Freeze could be their guy. I think it's going to be by the end of next week.
FAU's looking for a new coach too. They fired Willie Taggart.
Oh, not Willie. Really? Wow. Yep. How many chances did Willie Taggart get before somebody finally says?
I don't know how he keeps getting jobs. He has lost pretty much everywhere he has been.
He must own the interview room. That's all I can say is the guy must really be dynamic in the interview room because he's just such a bad coach, win-loss wise. He's just not good. He's just not good. But certainly, I like Hugh Freeze at Auburn. I think that's a reality. And you were right. Lane had no reason and will not leave Mississippi. So he's going to go long term there.
Lane leaves Ole Miss for the National Football League.
Probably.
But yeah. I wanted to read this because somebody texted this to me the other day. I know we talked about it. One of our listeners, back to Lane. I don't know why we're talking about Lane Kiffin on this show, but I thought this was interesting because here it is right here. His stats, about how he's beaten ranked teams.
No.
Okay, so Lane, as a head coach at SC, Tennessee, FAU, and now Ole Miss, his college career, he only has 7 wins against teams that were ranked at the time of the game, and only 3 of those wins were against teams that were ranked at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And those came Oregon 2011, Indiana 2020, and Arkansas in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So Lane is good at beating up on the teams that they're supposed to beat up on, but he ain't beating any teams that
not yet.
He's not upsetting anybody. Let's say
right.
that.
He doesn't have that big, huge win over top 5 team yet. He spent some time at FAU. That would not happen there. But besides the point, he was there at Tennessee, Southern Cal, and Mississippi much longer. So yeah, I hear you. I still think they're happy with him and they want to keep him. And
they love him, and it's the perfect job. He can tweet, he can do all that stuff.
That's right.
I just know a lot of big schools. Not the big. Ole Miss is a big school, but they're not going to go for that tweeting and stuff. Van Der says here before we let you go, Shane, between Just Us Gators are in the game for a college coaching job. I don't know what that means. No idea what he's talking about.
QB. You mentioned, I got to just say this. I know people don't want to hear it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Alabama has won 10 or more games for 15
years.
If that is the record, so we talk about records being broken. If Pete Rose's hit record will never be broken, that's a record that will never, ever be broken in college football. Not with the way it works today.
No, and I saw I saw Saban's interview with the press. It was a great press conference.
Oh, the scar on his face. Yeah, you should have seen the other guy.
It was a great press conference.
Well, listen, I think they're happy. I mean, they wanted to play this week against Georgia. I'm frankly glad they're not because I don't want to see Georgia score 45 points on them, and I think that's what we would see. But I do think at 10-2, it was somewhat of a disappointment. But again, 2 losses by 4 points on the last play with a defense that I think is average at best. So I'll take it. I mean, that's just the way it is. They're going to play in the Sugar Bowl without their best players, and I don't really care. That's what's going to happen.
You're not going to go, JC?
Well, I mean, without Will Anderson and Bryce Young, and
you're not going to support the other players. They're part of the program.
I guess I could, but it's going to be a Utah situation where they're going to play a team that's just drooling to beat Alabama, and Alabama's going to be sitting there wondering what they're doing at this game. But I think if USC loses, I think Ohio. You say Alabama gets in, I'm going to say Ohio State gets in. But I either one I think loses to Georgia in Atlanta, and certainly I think TCU Michigan could be very interesting over in Phoenix. And I don't think though that we're going to have the drama that we want in the semifinal games because typically those are not exciting. They haven't been in years, and it comes down to the final game, and we're going to see Michigan lose to Georgia. That's my call, and I think
So you think if it started right now,
yeah,
you think Georgia and Michigan would play for the national title?
I don't see Michigan losing to TCU, and I don't see Georgia losing to Ohio State. No.
Why wouldn't the committee put Georgia versus TCU
in Atlanta?
Michigan.
Well, it just
Because here's what I want to see.
Yeah.
I want to see Georgia USC.
That 100% could happen. But you've got an undefeated team in TCU. If they go 13-0, they got to be seated higher than Southern Cal. I would think.
Not necessarily.
Well, no, you're right. Not necessarily, but I don't think you can make Southern Cal Pac-12 champion with one loss and some close games above an undefeated Big 12 champion. And I'm not saying Kansas State won't win that game against TCU, dude. And if they do, then TCU will be the 4th seed. So I think TCU's in regardless. Southern Cal has to win. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to take a timeout.
Yeah, you can't put a team that loses to Utah twice in the Final Four. You can't do that. And so,
if USC loses, they're done.
They're done. So, but you're right. They want to stick them out in Phoenix. I think I guess that could absolutely happen because
I would much rather see that than.
But are they going to beat Michigan? Would they be able to handle that offense?
Well, I'm saying that gives us a possibility of Georgia, Michigan. Georgia, Michigan. I don't think. Look, I watched TCU. I think it's a great story. They cannot match up with any of those teams.
No,
in my opinion.
And last year's Georgia-Michigan game. Tell me one reason why this year's Georgia-Michigan game wouldn't be different. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't see a lot of drama in this. I hope I'm wrong, but it just seems too simple for Georgia. Play a game in Atlanta, play a game in Atlanta, and then give.
All right, before we get out of here, let me answer this from Jerry on Facebook Live. He says, Shane, what do you think about the head coach being the OC or DC? Me personally, I don't like it because he can't focus on the whole team. It doesn't bother me one bit. There's a million. Kirby Smart. People can say what they want to say. He runs their defense. He's the head coach. Lincoln Riley, head coach, runs their offense. Harbaugh runs their offense. I don't care. He may not say it. He calls the plays. TCU, Sonny Dykes may have an offensive coordinator, but he's an offensive-minded guy. That Coach Spurrier did it for years. Lane Kiffin does it. I have zero problem with that. That has nothing to do with it. It's called about execution, folks. Execution.
We need a quarterback.
Nobody be complaining if we were executing properly.
Well, maybe this Jalen Rashad will be something special, or maybe they'll go ahead and find Sam Hartman in the portal. Anything's possible. But here's the other thing, QB, is you got to have dogs outside that can win routes and get open. You got to have guys who can do that.
I agree, but it still comes down to execution. And so, I mean, it is what it is.
Which they did not do yesterday in Portland in that West Virginia basketball game. I'll let you talk about that.
That was bad. We'll talk about that tomorrow.
We'll do that.
All right, JC. We'll talk to you on Wednesday.
You got it. See ya.
That's JC joins us on the Titan MR hotline. We're going to take a quick timeout, come back and be joined by senior writer for FloridaGators.com, Scott Carter. You're watching and listening to Pod Up Matthews in the Morning.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogra State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avra and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit podupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to carry. Celebration points where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shops, International Diamond Center, Regal Cinemas, Dave & Buster's, Nike, Wawa, the Gadget Guys, and the HBC's Restaurant Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, now selling head beer Coach American Lager in draft and 16-ounce cans. We'll see you at Celebration Point where the Gators go to celebrate. Going to head to the Titan MR hotline now. We're joined by senior writer for FloridaGators.com, Scott Carter. Good morning, Scott. How are you, my man?
Hey, Shane. Doing well, man. Just ready to decompress from the regular season a little bit and see where the Gators end up in a bowl game.
Yeah. That late night in Tallahassee and getting back here, boy, that screwed up my whole weekend from a sleep schedule. Long night. It was a long game. Great atmosphere in Tallahassee. Great football game. Gators came up short. I thought they played hard, played pretty well for the most part. You can question this, you can question that, but in my opinion, their number 13 won the game and made more plays. He was unbelievable.
Yeah, Jordan Travis, he was. I mean, he's a guy that when you look in recent history, if you know, he was under scrutiny a lot early in his career. Obviously, fans weren't a big fan, but they were, Florida State fans, but they were a big fan on Friday night because he was the difference in the game. And, Shane, the game itself, it just so much reflected Florida's season. It really was a microcosm in a lot of ways of this Florida team. I mean, they've been good at times, inconsistent at times, maddening at times, promising over certain stretches. But I think really, I had the weekend to kind of, think about it. I saw what the fans were saying on Twitter. A lot of people are frustrated. I get it. But you know what? In the big picture, if they'd won the game or lost, or, even if they win or lose the bowl game, yeah, it's going to kind of reflect in the record. But I don't really think it's going to mean much in the big picture. And what I mean by that, this is a program where we knew 3 months ago before they played Utah that they were just getting started. They're far from a finished product, and it is a total reboot like Florida's never had before. It's just that, when the season starts, we're all week to week. It's an emotional roller coaster, so I get it. But I still think where Billy Napier is, I'm comfortable with where the program's headed is what I'm saying, even though the loss to Florida State certainly was one that, it was disappointing because they were there. They had a chance. I thought the game turned, obviously, in the second half on those first drives of the second half. That's where Florida State got momentum. And the Gators really were never able to dig back out of that hole.
Yeah, Andy asked here on Facebook Live, Scott is detail-oriented. Gosh, it goes away every time I get ready to read it. Is detail-oriented he's basically asking, are you surprised at how he managed the second half timeouts in the last drive? What happens a lot of times when you're on a football team, do you want to call early timeouts? No. But in a game that's going back and forth, every possession is so crucial that if we're screwed up, not lined up properly or whatever it is, you have to use your timeouts. The last drive, I had zero problem with it. If Caleb catches that ball in that crossing route, we have the ball first down on the 13-yard line with like 40-something seconds to go. You're fine. So I just, look, people get upset when we run the football, and then people get upset when we throw the football. If everybody's executing and everything is working smoothly, nobody's questioning anything. But he wanted your opinion on that. I gave you my opinion. But go ahead, Scott.
No, I get it. It is easy to second guess some of the decisions, and that's just the nature of the game. It's the nature of, being invested as a fan. I'm like you. I thought they were in position there. They were fine where they were. The key play on that last drive was the Douglas drop. It changes everything there. If he catches that ball, and he had it, and got to give Florida State some credit there. They popped him, and he lost the ball. And then it was just scramble mode from there on out. I think, if there was anything, Billy Napier maybe giving him some truth serum this morning. I think the way they got away from the run early in the third quarter, if maybe he could go back and do anything there, that's to me where maybe you just keep pounding the ball there. But again, he saw something. He knows the plan. He had a strategy, so I don't know what it was. I just know that they were there. But again, it's just reflective of this team, man. I've always said this, Shane. I've been around a lot of different teams, and the teams that are middle of the road are the most frustrating. As a writer, I'm always going to want to cover a really great team because it's fun and there's so many great stories, or a really crazy bad team because you know that the stories are going to be there, and also there's getting ready to be change. It's these middle of the road teams that drive you nuts because one week they give you hope, the next week they take it away, and that's what 6-6 is.
Yeah, and I try everybody. I look at it as from a player, a coach, what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
And those first two drives of the second half were crucial. But again, go back to the first half. How did we score?
Yeah.
We scored throwing the football.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're not just calling plays wanting to punt. There's a reason why they're calling them. And so anyway, it's the season basically went exactly how I thought it would. I predicted 6-6.
Yeah.
And I said if it was 7-5, it would be an unbelievable year. Should we have won a couple more of those games? I think so. But you got to have guys that know how to win and can carry you to wins. Yes. And I don't think we have those guys.
You hit it right there on the head, man. You've got to have players who know how to finish. And the roster, you can look at the talent itself, and it's a roster that's not on Florida's level talent-wise. And then you add that key factor in there. These guys, I mean, they haven't been able to finish last year, this year, and it costs them. I mean, that's all. That's why you got to recruit those kind of players. That's why coaches all the time talk about bringing players into the program who know what success is and who've experienced it, and that helps your program at this level. And I think they need more of those guys, and it shows up sometimes with this team.
Yeah, and it really does. And it's, people want to talk about who's the leader this, who's the leader there. You lead by just doing your job, and others will follow. The vocal leaders sometimes come from the defensive side of the ball because that's just what defensive guys do. Mm-hmm. But I'm a big believer. Find dudes that are used to winning, have won their entire life, because it's in them. It's hard to you just don't learn to be a leader. It's something that's in you. So when you look at this game, what stood out to you the most from a Gator standpoint? I mean, who I thought Ricky Pearsall was great early in the game. They changed up their coverages and flipped and put a different dude on him.
Yeah.
But we obviously saw a matchup that we liked early on.
Yeah, I mean, Pearsall stood out in the first half. I think that's why they brought him here, and that's why Trent Whittemore didn't play a lot this year. I think you saw that in that game. I mean, Ricky Pearsall is a really talented player. Not only is he excellent in the slot and shifty and getting open, the guy can also beat guys down the field, as we saw in that game. Trevor Etienne, I mean, continues to impress me. I think, boy, the Gators are really in good shape at the running back position, moving ahead here with Etienne and Montrell Johnson Jr. That's a great combo. But I think my biggest takeaway, and it's always going to go back, Shane, when he is such a pivotal player, it's going to be Anthony, because, I mean, he made those great throws at the first start of the game. I love the throws to Pearsall. I love the call to Odom that we saw in the South Carolina game as well. This one went for a few more yards. Good play call, good execution. And then he just went into that funk where he went, 11 in a row without hitting anybody. And there was a drop or so in there, but some of those throws just weren't good throws. And you're going to live and die. It goes back to what you mentioned earlier. They've got a lot of young guys, a lot of guys who don't know really what winning feels like or is. And so when your quarterback is not performing well, I mean, that damages everything. And it was just it was an up and down game from Anthony. Fantastic at times, head scratcher at times, but that's what we've been saying all year, right?
Yep. Text on the Titan More text line from an anonymous texter. Florida's just a mediocre team now. No one is jumping up and down to go play for the Gators. Another 15 years of irrelevancy. on the way. Now that can change very quickly, my man, in today's world.
Yeah, I'm not buying that. And one thing about this program that I really like, that I think it bodes well for the future, and we've talked about it, Shane. You look at the players that Billy Napier personally brought to this team: Pearsall, Osiris, Montrell Johnson. I mean, they're the Gators. Etienne, that's their best players.
Their best player. The best players on the team came from these coaches bringing them in.
Yeah,
it's that simple.
So it's that simple. So I think with what they're doing in recruiting and what they can identify in the transfer portal, I do think they can get it turned around relatively quick. And Billy hasn't really talked in depth about this, but I gotta believe, knowing him and as detailed as he is, he's going to have several new pages in that notebook he keeps. I guarantee you, he learned a lot of things this year. Being at Florida in the spotlight as the head coach of the Florida Gators, he's a smart guy. So I think he'll be tweaking some things too. I don't know what they are at this moment, but I can guarantee you he's learned some valuable lessons, here this year.
Josh from Mississippi says, "Good morning, QB. Thanks for the pregame fist bump. Great game day atmosphere Friday night. Outcome not what we wanted. Could have and likely should have had that one. What are your biggest takeaways from Friday's game?" It went about how I thought. I remember telling Sean before the game, I was like, we got a very good chance of winning this game because I didn't think Florida State was very good, especially on defense.
I remember you telling me that.
Did I tell you that, Scott?
Yeah, in the press box.
Yeah, I did tell you that. And, in my opinion, it's just like every other game. 3 or 4 plays determine the outcome. But Jordan Travis was just outstanding. I mean, I don't know how else you can put it. As much as I hate saying that about a semi, he was phenomenal. At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today, 352-244-0840. A few more minutes here with Scott Carter on the Titan MR hotline. All right, so what are we hearing? 2 questions here on another text. There was multiple texts about this. People want to know, what are you hearing about the bowl game, and is Anthony going pro?
Well, the bowl game seems to be out there. I mean, as far as, Las Vegas Bowl, people are still mentioning the Tampa Bowl.
No, there's no way.
No way. That's why I don't see that one.
We're not going to go to a bowl in the state of Florida.
No, I think it's going to be Las Vegas. And is Nashville still on the board at last?
Well, Music City Bowl?
Yeah.
Oh.
That would be great.
Either one of those would be outstanding. Is Birmingham out and Memphis out?
No, I think they're in. So, I mean, it's all over the place. I don't think there's any definites. I haven't heard anything internally. If I get to pick, I'm going to the Music City Bowl personally.
I'm right there with you.
But, I don't get to pick. So we'll find out soon enough on that. We'll find out actually next Sunday after the championship games are all done. And then Anthony, I mean, it's a great question. He was asked after the game. Obviously, I've yet to see any player in history go up to the podium after their last game and say, "Yeah, I'm going pro or I'm staying." they're playing that out. So, obviously, I've said this many times. Anthony is a raw product, an exceptional talent. I mean, if you just do it from the football perspective, obviously he should stay in college. But I understand the real life and what the NFL is. All it takes is one team to say, "Anthony, we think we can make you a star. We're going to take you late in the first round or whenever. Here's your money." It's hard to pass up. So it's going to be the most interesting thing going for the Gators for the next weeks or whatever it is until he makes that decision public. I don't know. I haven't written him off for sure gone, but it seems to me that the media and a lot of fans have. So I don't know,
Well, I like I said, he's got that raw talent. Will it ever come about where he's a consistent player? I don't. The same stuff. So I think he goes pro. I think that's the best thing for him. I think it's the best thing for the program. So we'll see. All right, I think I'm losing internet again. I don't know what's going on here at the beach, but David says real quick, if we can replace Osiris Torrance, I think our O-line is going to be good. They played well. They're very good.
See, Shane, if you can hear me, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with that. I think I like Barber. I like some of those young guys I love Cameron Waits just by watching what I've seen of him. But
Scott, you there?
now I can hear you a little bit, man.
I don't know what's going on. I got like the fastest speed you can have from an internet standpoint. I didn't even know there's a thing you can go on your computer and click it, a website, and it tells you your speed. And I have the fastest there is, but some reason it still ain't working. So,
well, I still see the waves breaking back there. That's good.
That's right. That's right. Scott, we appreciate you joining our program all year long. Obviously, we'll have you on periodically with the other sports going, but I know our fans love having you on. I appreciate your time. Have a good off season, my man.
All right, Shane, you too, man. Enjoy it, and we'll see you around soon. Better days are ahead.
All right, that's Scott Carter joining us on the Titan MR Hotline. We're going to take a final time out, come back, wrap up this Monday edition.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogra State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avra and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Ruse Ogra State Farm offers a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogrinsurance.com. Give them a call, 352-240-1779. I want to thank JC and Scott Carter for joining us. We'll have Buddy Martin tomorrow. We can talk more about the basketball tomorrow. It was not a good outing for sure. This Day in Sports brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. Give Comfort Temp Heating and Air a call today at 352-376-2366. So this day in sports, in 1938, the fourth Heisman Trophy Award was given out to Davey O'Brien, TCU quarterback, and he has an award named after himself, the Davey O'Brien Award. That's brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. I think Caleb Williams wins the Heisman Trophy in a landslide this year, and I think next year's favorite will be Drake May from North Carolina. If he stays there, there's word that I doubt he leaves North Carolina, but I've heard Ohio State mentioned, and I'm sure he'll be having a lot of people calling to bring his services to their program. Let me get a couple of these other Facebook Lives. There was one more I wanted to read if I can find it. It's hard to find today on my computer here for some reason. And I can't scroll for some reason. Oh, Andy asks, why does Pearsall basically wear short pants way above his knee with no pads? Seems like he would be injured. But everybody does that now, Andy. All the skill guys for the most part. Some are much, much shorter than others. But they used to have a rule where you had to cover your knee with a knee pad. They don't have that rule anymore. Guys just feel like they can be quicker and faster with no restriction, having their knees exposed like that. Hope you enjoyed today's program, folks. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.